The quantum law of being begins with a simple idea that most people overlook. You think you are moving through a world that is fixed, solid, and separate from you. You think you are reacting to life as it comes. You think everything outside has more power than anything inside. This is what you were taught. This is what almost everyone around you believes. But once you pay closer attention, you start seeing that the world is not acting on you. It is responding to you. It is mirroring you with more accuracy than you realize. Most people assume life is already formed before they enter the room, as if reality is a script written by something outside of them. They wait for something to change before they allow themselves to feel different. They wait for evidence before they shift their belief. They wait for the world to move first, but the world does not move first. The world follows. The world reflects the identity you carry, even when you are unaware of that identity. What you accept as true becomes the picture the mirror displays. Quantum physics is now questioning the old idea of separation. Experiments show that the observer contributes to the outcome. Possibilities collapse into form based on attention, expectation, and awareness. This echoes teachings that existed long before modern science. They said reality is flexible. They said life bends toward consciousness. They said the world is more like a mirror than a machine. Now science is finding the same patterns hidden beneath everything. The moment you realize this, something inside you shifts. You begin to see your inner state as the starting point instead of the final reaction. You stop waiting for the mirror to smile first. You understand the mirror cannot give you a reflection you refuse to embody. If you hold the identity of someone stuck, the world echoes that back. If you carry the identity of someone growing, the world opens in ways you could not see before. If you believe you are capable, opportunities appear that were invisible before. The outer world is shaped by the inner world, not the other way around. Personal growth becomes easier when you understand that identity sits at the center of everything. You cannot build a new life on top of an old identity. You cannot think small and create big experiences. You cannot carry doubt and expect clarity. You cannot stay in the emotional past and expect a different future. Most people try to force their way into change through action alone. They grind, they push, they hustle, but even heavy effort cracks under an identity that contradicts it. Meanwhile, the smallest action taken from a new state of being becomes powerful and effective. Think about your own life. Every big change you ever made did not begin with the moment the world shifted. The shift started inside you first. You felt done with the old version of yourself. You got tired of your own narrative. You recognized that staying the same cost more than changing. And even before anything around you changed, something inside you already had. You made a decision. You accepted a new identity. Your inner world moved, and the outer world followed like a shadow. Most people make the mistake of waiting for proof before allowing themselves to believe. They wait for reassurance before choosing confidence. They wait for signs before choosing clarity. They wait for circumstances before choosing freedom. This is why change feels so slow for them. They are waiting on the mirror, but the mirror is waiting on them. As long as they hold the identity of someone limited, the mirror can only reflect limitation. As long as they hold the identity of someone trapped, the mirror can only reflect closed doors. The world does not deny them. They deny themselves by clinging to an identity that no longer serves them. Once you understand the law of being, you begin to see that your inner state is not some private feeling separate from your life. It is the signal the field responds to. It is the selection mechanism for the outcome you experience. Your state decides the timeline you step into. Your state decides the people you meet. Your state decides the opportunities you notice or ignore. Your state decides which version of your life unfolds next. You cannot hide your state from the field. The field reads it without effort. You begin to see that personal growth is not about fighting your way forward. It is about remembering your ability to choose who you are being in each moment. You are not building a new self from scratch. You are uncovering the version of you that already exists beyond fear, doubt, and old conditioning. Once you accept that version of yourself, the shift becomes natural. Everything begins to align without force. The moments and events that felt heavy begin to move with ease because they are no longer resisting you. They are matching you. The quantum field holds countless outcomes for your life. Every path is already available. None of them are out of reach. The question is not whether they exist. The question is which one your state of being aligns with. You choose not through effort but through identity. You move into a new life by accepting the version of yourself that already lives in that life. Once you do that, the world begins organizing around your new state. The shift first happens in the unseen, and the physical world takes a little time to catch up. But it will catch up. It has no choice. This is the beginning. This is the moment where the old way of seeing the world breaks apart and the new way becomes clear. This is where you stop chasing your life and start shaping it from the inside. This is where you realize that nothing outside needs to change before you do. And once you shift who you are being, the field must answer. It always does. Something powerful happens once you accept that your state of being is the source of your reality. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop fighting your past. You stop giving your power to situations that were never meant to control you. Instead, you start to observe yourself. You notice how certain emotions pull certain experiences toward you. You notice how old beliefs create familiar outcomes. You notice how much of your life has been shaped by unconscious identity instead of conscious choice. This awareness is not heavy, it is freeing. You realize you have been writing the script the entire time. When people talk about manifestation, they often describe it as if you are trying to attract something outside of you. But the truth is simpler. You are not pulling something in. You are tuning yourself to a version of reality that already exists. The quantum field does not decide for you. It responds to you. Every state carries its own timeline. Every identity carries its own experiences. When your state changes, your timeline shifts. You move into a life that matches your internal setting, just like tuning a radio to a new station. The station was always there. You simply did not hear it until you tuned in. This is why personal growth is not only about motivation. Motivation is useful, but it fades quickly if your identity remains the same. You can push yourself for a week. You can stay disciplined for a month. But if you still carry the identity of someone who doubts themselves, you will eventually return to that version of your life. The inner shift must come first. Once you accept the identity of someone who grows, someone who chooses, someone who leads their life from within, momentum becomes natural. You no longer push, you move. People often misunderstand why they repeat the same patterns. They think they lack discipline, they think they lack talent, they think they lack luck, but the truth is simpler. Patterns repeat because identity repeats. You cannot rise into a new life while holding the self-concept that built the old one. Old identity recreates old emotion. Old emotion recreates old behavior. Old behavior recreates old results. This is not punishment. This is the mirror doing exactly what it is designed to do. Once you understand this, the path becomes clearer. You do not fix your life by attacking problems directly. You fix your life by choosing a new internal state. When you shift the state, the problems begin dissolving on their own because they belong to a previous version of you. A problem that once felt heavy becomes irrelevant because your new state is not a match to it. You can see this in your own life. Times when something once bothered you deeply, but later you wondered why it ever felt so important. What changed was not the situation. What changed was you. The quantum law of being becomes most visible during these shifts. You may not see it happening in the moment, but you feel it. You sense your world opening. You sense opportunities showing up at the exact right time. You sense conversations leading you in the right direction. These events are not coincidences. They are reflections. They are the physical responses to your internal decision. Once you shift your identity, the field begins rearranging events in ways that feel unlikely but also natural. You feel guided, even though no one is guiding you from outside. You are guiding yourself. This is where many people get confused. They think the shift requires force. They think they have to maintain a perfect mindset every second. They think one negative thought will destroy their progress, but that is not how the mirror works. The mirror reflects your dominant state, not every passing emotion. You can have moments of doubt, you can have moments of fear, you can have moments where you question yourself. These moments do not derail you as long as your underlying identity remains aligned. The mirror listens to who you are being most of the time, not who you are being for a moment. The challenge is not controlling every thought. The challenge is choosing a state that feels natural enough to return to again and again. You do not need to pretend. You do not need to force positive emotions. You only need to accept a new identity as true. Once you do, your thoughts begin aligning on their own. Your emotions begin matching your identity. Your actions follow without strain. You move from effort to ease. You move from hopping to knowing. You move from trying to being. Think about how you felt the last time you truly believed in something, not hoped for it, not wished for it. Believed it. There was no tension in your body, no internal argument, no need to convince yourself, you simply knew. And then the world began moving in that direction without resistance. This is the same principle at work now. When your identity matches your desire, the desire no longer feels distant, it feels normal. And what feels normal becomes what you naturally express in your life. Many people resist change because they think becoming a new version of themselves means abandoning their old self. They think growth requires losing something, but this process is not about losing, it is about returning. You are not destroying your old self, you are releasing the limitations that never belonged to you. You are remembering the version of yourself that existed before fear shaped you, before doubt controlled you, before you borrowed beliefs from other people who did not know their own power. The truth is you are not becoming someone new. You are removing what hides who you already are. As you shift your identity, you start noticing your relationship with your environment change. Things that used to drain you lose their power. Things that used to intimidate you look small. Things that once felt impossible begin to feel reasonable. You also notice new behaviors rising naturally. You speak differently. You move differently. You choose differently. You no longer accept the limitations you once carried. This is not discipline. This is identity expressing itself through your choices. Reality responds. People treat you differently. Opportunities appear in ways that feel smooth and timed perfectly. You see paths opening that you could not perceive before. These paths were always there, but your old identity filtered them out. Now that your internal lens is different, the world reveals what was hidden. This is not magic. This is alignment. And once alignment begins, momentum builds quickly. This is the heart of the quantum law of being. The field does not test you, the field does not judge you, the field does not reward you, the field mirrors you. Once you choose a new version of yourself, the field must respond. It has no will of its own. It does not decide who you get to be, you decide. And once you decide, the world reorganizes around your choice. This is the middle point of the journey. This is where you begin to recognize your role as the source instead of the observer. This is where personal growth stops being a struggle and becomes a natural unfolding. This is where manifestation stops being a technique and becomes a simple expression of who you are. And this is where you begin stepping into the version of your life that has been waiting for you all along. There comes a moment where everything begins to click, not because the world suddenly changes, but because you finally see the connection between your inner state and the life appearing around you. You begin to realize that every outcome you once thought was luck was actually alignment. Every obstacle you overcame was actually identity shifting. Every time life moved in your favor, it happened after you chose a new way of being. This is when the quantum law of being stops sounding like a concept and starts feeling like your everyday experience. You notice how quickly your world reacts when you commit to a new internal state. The right people reach out at the right time. Ideas come to you in moments of stillness. Solutions appear without you forcing anything. You feel more guided, but not from something outside. The guidance comes from the version of you that already exists in the timeline you are stepping into, the part of you that sees more than your current awareness. The part of you that lived this path already and is drawing you forward through intuition, clarity, and certainty. Once you understand this, you stop chasing outcomes. You stop trying to pull a future toward you. Instead, you move into the identity that sits inside that future. When you do this, that future no longer feels distant. It feels normal. It feels familiar. It feels like something that was always meant for you. And because it feels normal, the field begins aligning events that match it. You no longer stand in front of life begging for change. You stand inside the version of yourself that change naturally flows toward. This is why repetition matters, not repetition of action but repetition of identity. You reinforce your chosen state again and again until it becomes your default. You remind yourself who you are, you speak from that identity, you think from that identity, you feel from that identity. Each time you do, you strengthen the signal you send into the field. And the stronger the signal, the faster the reflection. Identity becomes the anchor that holds your path in place. There will be moments when the old state tries to pull you back, not because you are failing, not because you are doing something wrong, but because your nervous system is used to certain emotions. It is used to certain patterns, it is used to familiar discomfort. Growth is often uncomfortable not because the new identity is hard, but because the old identity resists being replaced. When you feel this pull, you do not fall back into old habits. You observe it, you breathe. You choose again. Each choice weakens the old identity and strengthens the new one. Eventually, the old state loses its influence entirely. You wake up one day and realize you no longer react the way you once did. You no longer think the way you once thought. You no longer see yourself the way you once saw yourself. You already shifted. And because you shifted, your world begins to show the results of that shift. People reflect your new confidence. Opportunities match your new clarity. Challenges that once overwhelmed you now seem manageable, even simple. You have stepped into a higher version of your life without force. You grew into it by choosing who you were being. This is the point where personal growth meets quantum manifestation. They are not separate. They are the same process viewed from two different angles. Personal growth is the inner shift. Manifestation is the outer reflection. One leads directly to the other. When you change your being, you change your timeline. When you change your timeline, your life begins unfolding differently. Not because the world changed on its own, but because you changed the version of the world you are aligned with. Many people wonder why some changes take time. They think the delay means they are doing something wrong. But time in the physical world is part of the design. The shift happens instantly in the unseen, but the physical world unfolds in sequence. Events must line up, people must move, conditions must shift. You are not waiting for your desire. Your desire is moving toward you through the steps required to reach you. The moment you shift your being, the process begins. The timing is only a matter of physical order, not spiritual delay. Once you grasp this, patience becomes easier. You no longer wait with tension, you wait with knowing. You trust the process because you know the outcome is already selected. You are simply walking through the steps that led you there. You carry the feeling of the outcome long before it arrives because you understand that the feeling is what brings it into your experience. This is not pretending, this is alignment. You are choosing the state that matches your future, and the field is matching you in return. Something else happens along the way. You begin to outgrow fear not by fighting it, but by seeing through it. Fear loses its power when you realize it came from the old identity, not the new one. Fear belonged to the version of you that felt small, limited, or uncertain. The new identity does not carry that weight. As you choose this new state again and again, fear fades. You begin acting boldly not because you force confidence, but because confidence is natural to who you are being. You also begin to outgrow doubt. When you see the world reflect your internal shifts over and over, doubt becomes harder to believe. You start trusting yourself, you start trusting your inner guidance, you start trusting the subtle impulses that lead you forward. You see that every time you choose alignment, the world rewards you with clarity. You stop questioning whether change is possible. You know it is because you are living the proof. In this final stage, you realize the truth that has been present the entire time. You are not separate from the universe, you are an expression of it. You are not waiting for approval, you are not waiting for permission, you are not waiting for signs. You are the one generating the signals that shape your world. You are not a character inside reality, you are the consciousness that reality responds to. The quantum law of being reminds you that the power was never outside, it was always within. It shows you that life is not something happening to you, it is something happening through you. It reveals that your identity is the doorway to every version of your future, and once you step through that doorway, everything shifts. This is the completion of the journey, not an ending but a beginning where you stop living as a reactor and start living as a creator, a beginning where you choose your identity instead of inheriting it, a beginning where you move through life with clarity, intention, and confidence, and a beginning where the field reflects exactly who you decide to be. Because once you understand this law, reality does not just change, you do, and when you change, your entire world follows.